two prisoners accused of terrorist acts were interviewed in this documentary. After several contacts and effort, Al Arabiya was able to perform 2 interviews with 2 prisoners accused of terrorism. The common issue between the 2 prisoners, Hadi and Abed al-Rahman, is that they are accused of carrying out terrorist operations. The evidence includes some recorded speeches released by some misleading media and social networks or delivered directly through seminars and meetings. This is the issue that Muhammad Ali Yousufi, the director of the documentary film, reveals through the interviewing of these 2 prisoners in Al Hayr prison in Riyadh. The film, Hasab al-Morazin or Provocateurs Response, indicates the efforts of these 2 prisoners at filing a complaint in Saudi justice against the provocateurs. Hadi and Abed al-Rahman say, those who call themselves Muslim scholars have no affiliation to Islam and do not serve any religion or homeland. Hello, how are you? How is it going? Yes, people should know that. There is a population of 9 million people. In fact, the religious instigators are the main ones encouraging young people to commit terrorist acts. The destiny of hundreds of those charged with long sentences for terrorist acts in Saudi prisons was triggered by the provocateurs. The religious incitement is performed under the slogan of supporting the oppressed and achieving martyrdom through different sources including prayer sermons, religious meetings, and media such as short videos on social networks. The film starts with an interview with the victims of these religious incitements in Saudi prisons and hospitals in order to listen to their stories in person. Provocateurs should respond. 3 decades ago, the concept of jihad in Saudi society did not have any meaning except in the advent of Islam narrative history of warfare. But suddenly, the situation changed. The CDs of challenging speech were released all over the country. Most of them contained stories in the form of imaginary heroes on the battlefield and jihad. This discourse was promoted from the pulpits, prayer sermons calling for a revision of the concept of jihad and helping the oppressed anywhere and under any conditions. Extremist groups have attempted to mobilize some young Saudis. The young people were prepared under the influence of religious thoughts to destroy imaginary enemies. The most prominent slogans in Saudi society by the instigators were, "Remove the pagans from the Arabian Peninsula." Following the slogans, a number of Saudi citizens were killed in an Al-Qaeda suicide attack in 2003. The executors of the terrorist act were all young adolescents who were influenced by religious agitators. The Saudi Interior Ministry declared war against the terrorists after the operation. May 1, 2004, Yanbu, terrorist attacks on commercial companies. May 29, 2004, Al-Khobar, Al-Vaha residential complex was occupied by terrorists. December 29, 2004, Riyadh, a suicide bomber blew up his vehicle near the Interior Ministry. June 18, 2005, Mecca. 2 terrorists killed Colonel Mubarak al-Sif. May 4, 2004, Jeddah, terrorists occupied the American consulate. 2009, Riyadh, attempt to assassinate Prince Mohammed bin Nayef. 2009, Jazan, killing 2 Al-Qaeda terrorists prior to penetration through the border in women's clothing. November 5, 2012, Shura, killing 2 guards in a terrorist ambush. Some Saudi victims of religious provocateurs and their slogans such as supporting the oppressed, going to paradise, marrying paradise virgins that were possible through jihad and joining in war zones in Iraq and Syria, discovered the truth of the preachers and regretted their actions. The youth's religious incitement was delivered through passionate sermons and releasing images and messages in social networks on a daily basis. Hello, if they accept, I suppose we need 40 minutes. In prison, in the Al Hayr region in Riyadh, some Saudi citizens were sentenced to long prison terms due to terrorist acts or joining the armed terrorist organizations in other countries. Hadi al-Bagmi is one of them, talking with us in prison. He talks about the time he just joined Al-Qaeda under the effect of the sensational speech. The man who speaks sometimes also makes mistakes. Are you a victim of religious agitators? Undoubtedly. undoubtedly, I am a man of simple nomads. My father was a military man, so am I. I was impressed by one of the instigators of the religious sermon on Friday in the mosque. During the sermon he cried and asked, "Why is the honor and dignity of our sisters in Iraq violated? Our children in Iraq are killed while we sit and hear." He was crying when he talked so that he seemed to be plain and truthful. Even we did not allow ourselves to ask him about it. His sermons were often about the women's desecration and the killing of children by infidels in Iraq. "Hey young Saudis, why are you in here?" And the issue of jihad and supporting the oppressed victims were his usual topic. Of course I am not the only victim. A large number of the youth are also his victims. Do you have any news about the person whose sermons you listen to? Yes, he lives in an excellent condition. Recently he bought a 7 million rial house and he is so proud of that. He was in a financial crisis, but now his condition has changed. He has his own house, children and living. None of his children have been sent to the battlefields in Iraq and Syria. That's enough for me. I ruined my life. Not only my life, but also I ruined my children's life. They were deprived of my presence for 10 years. My father, mother, brothers, uncles, cousins, and all of these people were deprived. Hadi's words raise numerous details about the religious provocateurs, especially those who led hundreds of people to be imprisoned, sent to Iraq and Syria's battlefields, or joined the terrorist groups in Saudi. The majority of the young prisoners in here are the victims of religious incitement discourse. It is true that still a handful of extremists are among them, but most of them are victims of this discourse or have been perverted by mosque sermons, CD, or the special meetings or inviting camps for Islam, which is not in Allah's religion. Most people here have spent the best days of their life in prison and their children have lived deprived from their parents' love. Here is my youngest son whose face I imagine every day. This deprivation is also because of the instigating religious discourse. Here is my son, Azam, now he is 13. He was just 3 years old when I went to prison. This is my son Zayad. Both of them spend their lives without me. This is because of the religious incitement discourse. I complained against one of the religious provocateurs in court because he led me to this. A large number of the young people also sued him. We are willing to review the legality of this issue. We want to take back our financial and spiritual rights. We want to stop their harassment. Does the court provide you a lawyer? I sent my complaints to an attorney and hopefully I will take back my rights. I requested that the relevant authorities stop these extremist preachers and their harassments. To ban their sites which persuade the people's children to jihad. They live with their children but leave the others' children to be killed. Abed al-Rahman Alam, his lawyer, says, "We are sure that Sharia law will deal with such behavior and every spokesman will be held responsible for his speech. Provocateurs should respond." Abed al-Rahman Alam, Hadi's lawyer, talks with us about his client's resentment and suffering caused by provocative discourse, saying, he says honestly that he does not regret he is in prison. Because he had made mistakes so he deserves the punishment, but he emphasizes that he will not let the person who wasted 10 years of his life go unpunished and he will sue him. He spent 10 years of his life in prison while he lives in luxury with his family and children. We want to be secure from their harm. We trust that our laws will deal with such behavior and every spokesman will be held responsible for his speech. They send their children abroad to study but provoke the others' children to be killed in Syria. We are at Al-Nasim quarter. We are going to visit and film a victim's family of the provocative religious discourse. In order to understand those most affected by the religious instigators' discourse, we met Hadi al-Bagmi's family and asked them about Hadi's story. Hadi al-Bagmi's uncle says if they were well-wishers, they would never invite people to be at risk. When we saw a cleric, we listened to him gladly without even arguing with him about his words. They deceive Saudi's youth who are just 17 or 18 years old. All of these problems are because of the provocative religious discourse in sermons at mosques or released CDs or special meetings. Hadi al-Bagmi's brother, I hope that the Interior Ministry, which acts with the provisions of Islamic Sharia, takes our rights from these people. Religious provocateurs took our children from us at the age of 17. I sued one of these religious provocateurs. We agree on suing them. They present a bad image of Islam. They think they are serving Islam, but in fact they are serving the aliens, he continued, Hadi's uncle. We are going to take our rights back from the person who deceived these young people. He has to be judged. We acknowledge Hadi. He has been in prison for 10 years. It is true that we are relatives. But our priority is our religion and then our country, and we approve any other thing which serves the religion and the country. I take back my right, and many other youth want to take back their rights. Prince Mohammed bin Naib and the Interior Ministry know who deceived these victims. They were 17 years old when they entered the prison, and now their age is more than 30 years. Why, this is Azam and these are Zayed and Abdullah, a relative of the prisoner al-Bagmi. If the problem reached to this point, it will undoubtedly be more dangerous. And there probably will be a heavy price because of them. Because their prosecution takes too long. Interior Ministry knows those who are in prison are victims of the instigators and victims of people who work behind the scenes. They stimulate people and pay them to utilize the youth of a certain age who are sensational and have strong feelings about religious issues and everything. Other brother of Hadi al-Bagmi, they stimulate the people, but their children use governmental scholarship to stimulate the people against the government. I ask Allah to protect me from these people, but we support Hadi with all our efforts, and we say to him that Allah protect you and other victims. The other brother of Hadi al-Bagmi, we know that they are the victims of provocateurs. There are many victims. All the society has been sacrificed. We are not the only victims, and there are many of them. The victim can achieve his rights with the government's help and Hanaf religion, even if it is late. We are at the hospital of Al-Hayl prison. There is a person in custody coming back paralyzed from Syria. I spoke with him and asked him how a young university student who is just 21 years has gone to war. The prisoner, Abed el-Rahman, says, I was in Syria and Idlib near the Turkey's border. He is one of the young people who has gone to Syria. A bullet hit his spine and he was completely paralyzed. It totally went to Syria under the effect of media. Some people appeared on TV to simulate your emotions through social networks by showing sections or presenting speeches. Is this the reason? Because it was not studied well. Many of those who have gone abroad are because of the provocations, and they did not do it personally. We participated in Nations Scholars Congress. He was with the leaders of jihad in Syria. They told me about the victory, trophies, a great spirit of faith, and the desire to carry a gun. They asked me to say their hello to you. God is great. Rush to jihad, to return the glory of religion, to return the dignity of religion. May the blood flow. God is with the FSA. If the flare of jihad goes out among generations, there will be some days that none of the young people line up to confront the enemy. I tell the provocateurs that fear God. You are in comfort and among your family, but surely I will sue you and I will receive my financial and spiritual rights in court. I believe that the Sharia law on these issues is clear. The law protects the weak and certainly will give him back his rights. The provocateurs should know that they have to stop shooting the stimulating bullets from up on the pulpits of the Friday prayers. It was only in recent years that provocative sermons in Saudi changed to raise comments gently and be open to the possibilities, especially on issues of war zones such as Syria. So that a number of preachers and mosques who were the stars of the cassette tapes adopted a more secure method to promote their old beliefs. That was when they utilized the social networks. As some of their tweets, which have widespread repercussions, were reviewed, these tweets were ambiguous or against the current events. Many victims of provocations denied it on their family and friends' pages and even in recorded interviews. But the Saudi judiciary will soon witness a new phase of dealing with the problems of terrorism, and in this step some Saudi people who have had a major role to infect the thoughts and promote radical ideas, inviting people to jihad, will be under attack. No doubt that justice will go its own way.